both in.
Good morning and welcome to Arlington Garden in Pasadena. I'm Betty McKenney and this is my husband Charles, better known as Kicker or Trucks.
We're here at the corner of Pasadena Avenue and Arlington Drive in Pasadena and standing in front of Arlington Garden in Pasadena. It's a 3-acre garden to demonstrate the feasibility and the beauty of water-wise Mediterranean-style gardening here in Pasadena, California. This garden is, as I say, 3 acres. It's a partnership with Pasadena Water and Power, City of Pasadena, nonprofit associations, and us. We've planted in the past 2 years over 200 trees and about 3,000 plants. And so far, it's a glowing example of how water-wise gardening is not only possible, but really desirable here in Pasadena in our Southern California climate. What we have here is a vernal pool. It's a pool which used to be very, very common throughout California, and it's a small pool that fills up during the winter time and then dries out during the summertime, dry months. And the plants that are around here have adapted to that kind of living. And you see the yellow tidy tips here and the various grasses. During the winter time, last winter, winter before last, when it rained a lot, we had a family of mallards living here. This year we didn't get that much rain, so we don't, but we're trying to recreate what used to be very common in California with this vernal pool.
This is our exterior planting along the fence on Arlington Drive, where we have primarily California natives. We have ceanothus, California poppies, Artemisia, apricot and mallow, and a coyote bush. We've also put Cherokee roses back on this split rail fence, so we'll eventually have the look that was here 45, 50 years ago.
Well, you're standing now in what we've created as a dry arroyo, which Pasadena is famous for. It's Arroyo Seco, but during the dry months it serves as a path. And what we've done is carve this down between a sycamore allée, also typical of Southern California arroyos, and our meadow, which at the moment is full of poppies. This stream during the winter time actually runs water right down into the vernal pool, which we looked at just a little while ago. So we've tried to recreate basically what the site gave us, and that is a sloping area that we can create the arroyo and a meadow. Very, very Southern California.
This is a succulent border that we're putting in. It's a work in progress. It's going here because this is one of the hottest, driest parts of the garden, and the soil is well drained. We have a grove of Palo Verde, Desert Museum desert trees that are blooming with a yellow flower. We have agave americana, and we have a variegated agave americana over here. We've put some manzanita right outside the fence, and it's all going to be very happy with very little water. Okay?
Yeah.
This is the more formal Mediterranean end of the garden. We've just seen the California end. This has much more formality and structure to it, coming through a plane tree allée with myrtus borders and Spanish lavender around this entryway, where we hope to have a fountain someday. And we're looking straight ahead at the olive tree allée and a bed of lavender in the middle. On either side we have iris beds and cistus in bloom, the little pink flowers. And on each corner of this uh, garden room, we have a pomegranate tree. And we hope to be able to have a couple of bocce games up here around the olive alley. Plenty of places for people to sit. We have a rosemary and box hedge around this area, and we have salvias and sage over on the bank to the west.
We found in building this garden was that it sits on the site of one of Pasadena's most famous houses of yore, the Durand House. It was a 50-room mansion lined with sandstone brought in from Flagstaff, Arizona. It was, I say, 50 rooms. It was built in 1904 and was demolished in 1964. It at one time was the largest house in Pasadena. Many people still remember it. Sort of haunted house, and picture it right there.
This is another succulent garden that we have started. It's a work in progress as well. We've put in very drought tolerant succulents. We've been given several of these plants by generous donors. We have some interesting trees in here, a palo verde and a knife leaf acacia, as well as the blue senecio, which is a ground cover. We also have the sticks of fire, the bright orange bushes, which are poisonous if you get the sap on you. So we put them back here to keep people from getting themselves or their animals involved with them.
Betty is now relaxing in our patio that we've developed out of split concrete and columns that were given to us by someone selling his house. Surrounded by toyon, and poppies have found their way in here as well. It's a place where we found people like to come and sit in the morning, in the evening, get a little peace of mind, as one Pasadena worker explained to us. We have, as you come around, you can see where we just were, the pine grove. And over my shoulder here is the olive alley, which again we just finished seeing. And this is a path that we uncovered that was part of the original Durand House, and we think that it extends out to Arlington Drive, and we'll excavate the whole thing at some point and see if we can't fold it into the feeling of the garden.
Now we're looking at the connection between the olive alley up here on top with our original Italian cypress and the passageway through the lemon pots, in lemons and blue pots, to the next room having raised herb beds for people to either sit or stand by. This is a view looking towards the east, getting some of our meadow and a nice view of the pepper trees down below past the sycamore. Our next garden room is what the designer calls a half moon garden, and it's planted in the shape of a crescent moon, outlined by the rocks and the light colored plants that will show up in the moonlight or on a nice bright night.
We're standing underneath California live oak, which has stood here on the site for 60, 70, maybe more years, and it's thrived and has come to this beautiful, majestic size just on the water of the seasons. So we're not giving it any supplemental water at all, but we have planted some heuchera and gooseberry and such underneath it, because these plants do well in that kind of milieu, shall we say. Also on the site is another oak, a jacaranda, and a pepper. And as you look down to the southeast, it extends past the meadow, past the sycamore, and you're on the Arroyo path that we've developed, which we saw a little earlier. So this is the return trip, shall we say, and gives a different view and a different feeling from this end.
We're now standing at the edge of our orange grove on the northeast corner of the property. We were given about 48 orange trees by the city of Pasadena to plant in a grid the way they used to appear in the early California days, where orange groves were everywhere. And the Durand House family had an orange grove on the site when they were here. So we have about 48 orange trees and poppies growing underneath. We've also put in a valley oak. And we're getting lots of blossoms and fruit.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our brief foray through the Arlington Garden in Pasadena. As we said earlier, everything you see here is less than 2 years old. We've used lots of mulch and a lot of hand watering. We've taken what the soil has given us, the damp soil and the well-drained soil, and it continues to be a work in progress, but every season it's different. We hope that you come out every season and walk through it and sit and enjoy Pasadena's only dedicated botanic garden, and
The Mediterranean style.
in the Mediterranean style. Yes.